How many times have you said everything is fine, when in reality, something inside you is silently crumbling? How many emotions have you swallowed just to avoid worry, judgment, or to continue appearing strong in front of people? What if I told you that keeping everything inside might be affecting not only your mind, but also your spirit? Maybe you think you're just tired. Maybe you think it's just a difficult phase, a moment of stress, anxiety, or emotional exhaustion. But what many people don't realize is that there are pains that don't disappear simply because they've been ignored. There are feelings that remain alive within the soul, even when no one notices. And little by little, this emotional silence begins to weigh heavily. Have you ever experienced this? Have you ever felt like you were carrying something you can't even properly explain? As if your mind never truly rested? As if there's a silent sadness that appears even on days when everything seems normal? Many people live exactly like this. They smile on the outside, continue working, talking, posting on social media, helping others, but inside they're emotionally exhausted. And the scariest thing is that, over time, they begin to believe that feeling all this in silence is normal. The problem is that repressed emotions don't disappear. The human mind was created to feel, process, and express emotions. When someone holds on to pain, fear, frustration, and sadness for too long, something begins to change internally. The body feels it, the mind feels it, and in many cases, even spiritual life begins to be affected. People who once felt peace begin to feel empty. People who once could pray sincerely begin to feel emotionally distant. And then that hard-to-explain feeling arises, as if something is disconnected within them. What you are about to discover may surprise you, because the Bible shows that silent suffering has always been part of the human experience. Strong men of faith also face moments of deep anguish, emotional exhaustion, and internal conflicts that no one could see. David wept silently. Elijah reached the limit of emotional burnout. Job faced pain so intense that his soul seemed crushed by suffering. This means that feeling difficult emotions does not make you spiritually weak. On the contrary, it means you are human. But there's a huge difference between feeling emotions and locking them inside. And perhaps that's exactly what's happening to many people today. They carry old traumas, words they never forgot, disappointments they never managed to overcome, emotional wounds hidden behind a strong exterior. And the more they try to hide what they feel, the more exhausted they become inside. Because nobody was created to bear everything alone. Perhaps you're watching this video while trying to understand why your mind has been so tired lately. Maybe there's an emotional weight you've never been able to let out. Or maybe you've learned to survive in silence, believing that no one would understand your pain. But stay with me until the end, because what we're talking about here goes far beyond common emotions. There's a deep connection between emotional suffering, spiritual identity, and how the soul reacts to what is being kept silent. And the most interesting thing is that people often look for answers only on the external side of life, without realizing that some battles begin within themselves. Excessive thoughts, a constant feeling of emptiness, difficulty finding peace, emotional exhaustion that appears without explanation, all of this can reveal something much deeper than it seems. Because not all pain makes noise. Some pain simply accumulates silently until it begins to affect everything around it. And that's exactly what we're going to understand now. And perhaps one of the hardest parts of carrying emotions in silence is precisely believing that no one else would understand what you're feeling. Many people spend years trying to appear strong, while inside they're just trying to survive emotionally. And when someone finally finds a space where they can identify with themselves, realizing they're not alone changes everything. So, if this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below about what has touched you the most so far. I really want to know if you've ever experienced something similar. If at any point you've also felt this silent emotional weight or this feeling of carrying everything alone. Sometimes, a sincere comment can reach someone who is suffering silently at this very moment. If this type of content helps you better understand your emotions in light of the Bible and the human mind, please also like this video. It may seem simple, but it greatly helps the channel continue to bring this message to more people who may be silently facing internal battles. Today, there are many emotionally exhausted people trying to find answers, comfort, and direction, and your participation here is part of that. And if you feel that conversations like this are good for your soul, subscribe to the channel to continue following the upcoming videos. Because here, We don't just talk about emotions. We try to understand what happens inside the human heart in the light of God's Word, in a profound, welcoming, and truthful way. Little by little, we are forming a community of people who want to stop hiding their own pain and begin to understand what they're feeling in a clearer and more spiritual way. Because the truth is that much pain doesn't begin on the outside. It begins silently within the mind, within the heart, and even within the spirit. And the more a person tries to ignore this, the harder it becomes to find true peace. But there's something very important that almost no one realizes about silent suffering. And that's exactly what we're going to understand now. Now I want to delve even deeper into the subject, because there's a hidden truth about silent suffering that few people manage to perceive while they're experiencing it. Human beings learn very early on to hide emotions. They learn to smile even when they're broken inside. They learn to respond, "I'm fine," almost automatically. And over time, this emotional mask begins to seem like part of their very identity. The person continues functioning, continues making decisions, continues living their routine. But internally, there is an invisible wear and tear happening every day. And perhaps this is one of the greatest emotional dangers of our generation. Emotionally exhausted people trying to appear strong all the time. Because when someone keeps everything inside, they're not just hiding feelings. They're creating constant internal pressure. The mind becomes overloaded. The body absorbs emotional tension. And the soul begins to carry burdens that have never truly been dealt with. That's why anxiety often doesn't appear explosively. It appears silently, in the form of constant tiredness, unexplained irritation, emotional emptiness, lack of motivation, a feeling of being disconnected even from oneself. And you know what's most striking? Many spiritual people experience exactly this in silence. People who pray, who believe in God, who try to remain strong, but inside, an emotional battle is raging behind the scenes. And for a long time, some of them believe this means a lack of faith. But often, it's not a lack of faith, it's an excess of pent-up pain. It's the heart trying to bear alone things that should never have been carried alone. The Bible shows this in a very human way. David, for example, wrote words filled with anguish, fear, sadness, and emotional exhaustion. At various times, he seemed to struggle against deep feelings that no one around him could fully see. Elijah, even being a spiritually strong man, reached a point of such intense exhaustion that he lost the emotional strength to continue. Job faced such profound losses that his soul suffered extreme pain. Jeremiah became known precisely for the tears, sadness, and pain he carried within him. This reveals something powerful. The Bible never hid the emotional side of human beings. On the contrary, it shows that even people of faith experienced inner breakdowns. And perhaps this will completely change how you view your own emotional journey. Because there's a difference between experiencing emotions and being imprisoned by them. When someone represses feelings for too long, they begin to lose touch with important parts of themselves. They no longer know if they are sad, tired, frustrated, or simply empty. Everything becomes a burden. And then the silent signs of the soul begin. The lack of peace, the difficulty in resting mentally, the feeling of spiritual distance, the loss of enthusiasm for simple things. As if something inside them were silently crying out for help. The more you hide the pain, the more it grows inside you. Because ignored emotions don't disappear. They just change location. Sometimes they become anxiety. Sometimes they become emotional blocks. Sometimes they affect relationships, thoughts, decisions, and even the way a person sees God. Some people think they've lost their spiritual connection, when in reality, they are emotionally exhausted. Some people try to find spiritual answers for pains that also need to be acknowledged emotionally. And perhaps one of the hardest parts is admitting vulnerability. Because many people have been taught to believe that showing pain is a sign of weakness. So they continue to endure everything in silence. They continue to hide tears, thoughts, insecurities, and fears. But carrying everything alone takes a very high emotional toll. The human heart was not created to live permanently in a state of emotional survival. But there's something incredibly comforting about all of this. God has never been afraid of human emotions. He has never turned away from emotionally wounded people. In fact, biblical stories show the exact opposite. God is always drawn near to people who are tired, broken, confused, and emotionally overwhelmed. This means that vulnerability doesn't push God away. Emotional honesty doesn't push God away. You can hide your pain from people, but never from God. And perhaps the beginning of healing lies precisely there. The moment someone stops pretending they can bear everything alone. The moment they acknowledge their own emotional exhaustion without guilt. Because spiritual healing also involves emotional honesty. Transformation occurs when a person stops fighting against what they feel and begins to understand what their soul is trying to communicate. Perhaps you've spent too much time trying to appear strong. Perhaps a silent suffering is slowly consuming your peace. And perhaps your soul is tired of carrying pains that have never been expressed. Because deep down, some emotions don't want to destroy you. They want to reveal something that needs healing. Comment below, this makes sense to me. And perhaps the greatest transformation begins precisely when a person stops hiding what they're feeling and understands that they don't need to carry everything alone all the time. Because some pains don't disappear when ignored, they begin to lose strength when they're finally acknowledged. And if this video brought clarity to something you were experiencing internally, perhaps this is already the beginning of a new emotional and spiritual journey within you. If you made it this far, write in the comments, "I don't want to carry everything alone anymore." I really want to read what this video has awakened in you. Sometimes, putting into words what was trapped inside your heart is already an important step in the healing process. If this type of content resonates with you, please like the video. This helps the message continue reaching people who are also trying to understand their emotions, thoughts, and spiritual life in a deeper and more authentic way. And if you want to continue understanding emotions in light of the Bible and the human mind, subscribe to the channel to follow the upcoming videos. Because there are many things that almost no one talks about regarding the silent emotional battle that so many people face every day, and we will continue discussing this here. There's a video over here that complements this topic very well. Click on it and continue watching it.